Sounds like he want to do one with 50 Cent. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like Jim.
Nah, I don't want to do nothing with that sucker. You heard? Leave him out of the conversation.
Jones, who is Jim Jones? Like, he's not on anyone's top 10 list. He's like no one's top 10 list, maybe not even his fan.
Jimmy popping all that bullshit. I be seeing you, Jimmy, talking about we Gucci boo boo here in the Gucci store. Talking about we Gucci boo boo. The Black King was going up. Jimmy like, Marita Moneda.
50 Cent just put Jim Jones on blast for trash-talking Nas. He even dropped rare footage showing how Jim went from calling Jay-Z soft to begging for that Roc Nation deal. See, 50's never liked Jim or Jay, but he always saluted Nas. So when Jim started saying he's better than Nas and claiming he made Nas go viral again, 50 wasn't having it. What 50 exposed isn't just about Jim clowning Nas, it's about Jim's long record of switching sides and acting shady. For years, he's been bouncing between beefing and pleading, talking tough, and then backing down when it suits him, especially with Jay-Z. Jim spent over a decade throwing shots at Jay. He even smacked one of Jay's executives. But when his career needed saving, he went right back to Jay-Z, calling him a hero and asking for a deal. Now 50's reminding everyone who Jim really is, a guy with no loyalty, no firm stance, and no real respect. Jim claims he's for the culture, but that's just talk.
Jay did the remix. It was the biggest alley-oop he could do for me. I understood a lot about music, and at that time, people were looking at the wrong way, and I was looking at the right way.
There's a deeper story here about how his disrespect toward Nas blew up in his face. By going at Nas, Jim gave folks like 50 a reason to dig into his past and air it all out. Let's really break down how Jim went from calling Jay-Z soft to basically kneeling for that contract. We know 50 Cent doesn't bite his tongue when he spots fake moves. His recent shots at Jim Jones for being Jay-Z's lapdog after trashing Nas turned the spotlight on Jim's constant flip-flopping. In case you didn't catch it, Jim claimed he's better than Nas and even argued with Shannon Sharpe saying he could run circles around Nas in the booth. Jim said, fading around Nas right now rapping, everybody knows that. And when a bunch of rappers checked him for saying he's nicer than Nas, Jim didn't back down. He actually bragged about making Nas relevant again for the first time since Nas beefed with Jay-Z.
If I told you I was in the Roc Nation office, how would you feel about that? Huh? You think I was lying? That's clear enough for you?
Since Jim brought up Jay, you know 50 Cent had to step in and remind him about his own messy history with Jay-Z. 50 wasn't gonna let that slide. He dropped an old clip of Jim at Roc Nation HQ looking all hyped and happy to be there, and in the caption 50 didn't hold back. He wrote, "Someone asked me if I have more enemies than friends. I thought about it and said, yes, poor me, I'm suffering from success. LOL, that was a cold shot." You might think 50 was just clowning around, but it cuts deeper if you know the whole saga of Jim Jones and Jay-Z. Jim spent over a decade going at Jay full force. He was dropping diss tracks, firing shots in interviews, and even getting into real street fights tied to the beef. But the second it benefited him, Jim flipped like a switch and started begging Jay-Z for his approval. That's exactly what 50 was pointing out.
Did for Nas probably never been done for him in his life. He's never been that viral at all, ever.
Some people shouldn't be able to say your names until they've done something in the genre of music. I've done too much in this music to even have to answer that question. Like Jim Jones, who is Jim?
Jim's recent move trashing Nas is gonna blow up in his face because it drags all this shady history back into the light. But wait, how did Jim go from dissing Jay to smacking one of his execs and then turning around begging to get signed? Let's take it back. It started in 2002 when Cameron and Jim Jones got brought into Rockefeller by Dame Dash. Jim even claimed Cam was promised a vice president role at Roc, but Jay-Z never made that official. Cam told The Source that same year, "I don't even know if I'm a take on the role as of yet. Me and Dame are still talking about it, but I mean, I can have it, it's mine." Jay shut that talk down fast. He told The Source that's not taking effect as of yet. "I think the talk is a little premature as of right now." The tension was real from day one. Then Jay jumped on a remix of Cam and Joel Santana's hit Oh Boy and used his verse to diss Nas. But Cam and Jim weren't having it. They refused to release Jay's version, and Cam even deleted his verse later on, saying he wasn't gonna let Jay use their record to settle his own beef. That moment set it all off. Jim and Cam felt Jay didn't respect them, and that kicked off the whole era of sneak disses. Jim started going at Jay in interviews and on the radio, painting him as some corporate dude who lost touch with the streets. Jim wanted everyone to see Dipset as raw, flashy, and aggressive while making Jay look buttoned up and business-focused. He really leaned into that contrast, claiming the streets left Jay behind.
Influential to Nas, and I don't care what nobody say. I know I made a little boo-boo when you talk about the sales and all this type. I don't feel like getting into that rhetoric about where I started and where he started.
Well, you said that.
But listen, Nas was nice when I was in high school. When I was in 10th grade, Nas came out. Nas was dope. We appreciated him. He had a little bit run. But Nas always came up second to Jay and DMX and all these other people.
But lyrically, I'm gonna keep it a stack with you.
Yeah,
y'all
but look how
ain't
you
with
dress.
Nas.
Look how you dress. You don't even be in the same places I be in. Listen,
I can be in the church house. You can't F with Nas lyrics. I don't know who told you that. Now look, y'all know you on that good stuff, but you're not seeing Nas. You're not seeing Nas, bro. Let's be real.
You got a bunch of 40 and 50-year-olds in their panties because I said I'm better than Nas.
It don't matter.
Look at you.
Hey,
I will run circles around Nas rapping right. I will run circles around Nas rapping right now. Right now, I will run Saturn around Nas right now rapping. Everybody knows that.
At first, Jay didn't fire back directly, but everyone knew there was tension brewing inside Rockefeller. Fast forward to 2006, Jim drops We Fly High. That track blew up and Ballin' became a massive catchphrase everywhere. Jim finally scored a solo hit and Jay-Z wasn't about to let it slide. He clapped back with Brooklyn High, a remix over Jim's own beat. But it wasn't a salute, it was a diss. Jay mocked Jim's style, his lyrics, even his ad-libs. It was sharp, cold, and dismissive. Jim didn't back down. He fired back with the beef mix, flipping the beat again and going straight at Jay, calling him old, out of touch, and weak. That's when things got really heated and spilled out into real life. In 2008, it got wild. Jim was caught on security cameras putting hands on someone inside a Louis Vuitton store. Later, it came out the person was Jay-Z's longtime A&R, Lenny Santiago. Jim ended up getting arrested for that and pleaded guilty to misdemeanor assault. This wasn't just rap beef, it was real tension with real consequences. The back and forth dices just added fuel to the fire while their crews stayed on high alert. It turned into one of the most talked about rivalries in the game. Now when it came to Jay, he didn't say anything publicly about the Louis Vuitton incident, but behind closed doors, everyone got the message. This wasn't just rap beef anymore, it was personal.
First of all, let's get right to it. There seems to be some drama. You and The Roc, Jay-Z, you try to diss, you did diss him. I diss nobody. You dissed him. I diss Michael Jordan. Oh man, we just there's no drama, man. No, we're gonna get to that. Shout out to Dame Dash, who started Rockefeller Records. If y'all don't know, he's responsible for Rockefeller getting off the floor. That started in Harlem. You know what I'm talking about?
Ever, he's never been talked about like this ever in his life.
Now, has Nas
you did the last time he was in some this when people were comparing is when him and Jay was beating on him. You heard?
A few months later, Jay did an XXL interview talking about the state of rap music, and he took slick shots at Jim. He said songs like Jim's Na 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 were dragging the culture down. Jay said, I mean like Jim Jones, for example, and I don't mean this because we never see eye to eye, he made Na 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 Na. What's the difference between Smiley Face About, songs and Soulja Boy and Nana and Na, Na Na Na, Nah, that could have been called Smiley Face. That was cold. Jay was strategic. He didn't need to be in the streets to clown Jim. He found ways to make him look foolish without even getting his hands dirty. But after that, things went quiet. From 2010 to 2015, there were no diss tracks or fights, just silent tension bubbling under the surface. But in 2015, Dipset tried to stir the pot again. They dropped a freestyle over Diddy's Victory beat. Cam and Jim both took shots at Jay and Roc Nation, mocking that whole brunch vibe, calling the label industry-controlled, and even throwing in references to Beyonce. Cam rapped, having money that don't make you a real one. You stepped on the court, you going to play my game? Just take Shawty's advice and say my name. That was their way of trying to drag Jay back into the beef, but by then Jay-Z was on another level. He was a billionaire, married to Beyonce, collecting art, launching his own streaming service, and moving into sports management. He didn't care about Jim and Cam still yelling from the sidelines. In fact, a clip of Jay resurfaced where he shut it down perfectly. He compared himself to Michael Jordan and said Jim was like the 8th guy on the bench screaming at the MVP.
Did a little something for you in the studio. Then he had something to Old Boy.
This is Old Boy's already #1?
Yeah, it's popping. I listened to it and I was like, erase that.
That Jim Jones, man.
Hip hop, of course, you know, is a competitive sport. But on the other end of it, it's like certain people shouldn't be able to say your names until they've done something in the genre of music. I've done too much in this music to even have to answer that question. Like Jim Jones, who is Jim Jones? Like, he's not on anyone's top 10 list. He's not. He's like, no one's top 10 list, maybe not even his family. I was saying last night, it's like the 8th guy on the bench just screaming at Jordan, like, you a bum. Like, you want to be like the 9th guy on the bench. I'm not even worried about you.
That summed it all up. Jay wasn't looking back while Jim and Cam kept trying to get his attention. This is the moment Jim had to face the truth. He was making himself look foolish trying to diss Jay. And what he did next is exactly what 50 Cent is roasting him for. Jim did a complete 180 and started begging Jay-Z to sign him. It finally went down in February 2017 when Jim signed with Roc Nation after 13 years of beef. He didn't do it quietly either. He was loud about it, bragging everywhere about getting invited to Jay's Roc Nation brunch, the same fancy event he used to mock. He started hyping Jay up in public, acting like Jay was the greatest thing ever. The same man he once called soft, accused of selling out the streets, and even slapped his friend, was suddenly calling Jay his role model. That's a wild switch up, but Jay played it cool the whole time. He didn't post any big welcome or give some grand speech. There was no public congrats message. In fact, there's only one photo of them together after Jim signed, and even in that pic, Jay looks like he'd rather be anywhere else. Jim finally got to sit at the table, but Jay made sure it was clear they weren't equals and never would be. Jim was just another name in the Roc Nation roster, no special treatment. That's the part that's crazy, because for over a decade, from 2002 to 2017, Jim built his whole image on not being Jay-Z. He always positioned Dipset as the anti-Roc Nation, the street alternative to Jay's clean-cut corporate vibe. He wanted to be the loud, flashy, rebellious voice that didn't need Jay's approval. But in the end, money talked.
Longtime nemesis turned collaborator Fat Joe signed to Rockefeller, and now it looks like another former rival will be relying on Hov's team to steer his career, as Dipset's Jim Jones is allegedly heading over to Roc Nation. Capo posted a picture of bottles of Juicy and Ace of Spades next to a Roc Nation letterhead on IG and told fans to caption this.
The image Jim spent years building crumbled the second he needed that deal. Jay didn't have to diss him back, didn't have to reply to all those insults, he just sat back and waited. When Jim finally gave in and bent the knee, Jay took the meeting, signed the deal, and kept it moving like it was just another day in the office. That's the kind of silent power move that really hits different. And that's exactly 50 Cent's point. Jim spent years taking shots at Jay, only to end up begging for a spot at his table. Most folks would have let that slide and forgotten all about it if Jim hadn't messed up by disrespecting Nas's legacy. But once he did that, he basically handed 50 the green light to dig up all the dirt and expose his history of flip-flopping and fake loyalty. The receipts are heavy and they don't lie. Now the real question is, how bad is this gonna hurt Jim's career? Will he bounce back from all this, or is this the end of the road for him? It's looking messy right now, and people are watching every move. If you're into this kind of raw breakdown, don't forget to share, like, and subscribe for more deep dives into hip-hop's wildest stories.